Okay, so I'm going to start a new initiative with my shop to try and organize this and make it a bit more efficient. So the first step to that is building a lumber rack. The design of this lumber rack is going to be fairly simple. I already know how high I want to go, which is 7 feet, and as far across as I want to go, which is 5.5 feet. The trick with this stand is because I'm in an apartment, I have to make it freestanding. I can't drill into the walls. So I got to make the feet sturdy enough to be able to handle the load. And also, but the good thing about it is that when I do decide to move, it's not screwed into anything, so I can just pick it up and take it with me. And then when I get to a more permanent location, I can just screw it in and have it as a more permanent fixture. I started by marking and cutting one of the 4 2x4s to 7 feet. Then I used that one to mark and cut the other 3 to the same length. After cutting down all the 2x4s to the right length, I then cut down both pieces of the 2x3s to just a little over 5 feet. To get a better feel for how everything would kind of fit together, I cleared off some space on my patio and then laid everything out so I can get a more clear picture of how I needed to fit everything together. Then I started to mark out where I would need to drill all the screws. Alright, so here's where we're at so far. I don't have any screws that are long enough to go through both pieces of wood. All I have are these 2-inch wood screws. So what I'm going to do is, from the pilot holes I drilled, I'm going to countersink them with a larger bit, a size bit that matches the size of the head that I drilled to the screw. Countersink them a 1/2 inch, and then that should give me the depth that I need to be able to screw them together. This process of countersinking that I did took a really long time because I was trying to use screws that were too short for the project. So in retrospect, I definitely would have used longer screws just to help this process along. I had some scrap pieces of pine laying around, so I used those to make the feet for the front and back of the frame. And this also helped to use up some more scrap, which is always a good thing. And it helped keep my material costs down because I was really trying to use up a lot more of the scrap that I had for this project as well. So this really helped out a lot. Alright, so I may or may not have put the feet in the wrong hole, but this is kind of a happy accident because now, since I have all the feet on, I can use the square edge, the straight edge of the feet to line them up so that I can tack these together. And then what I'm going to do, originally I was planning on having all the feet face forward, but then I realized it kind of made more sense to have these as the front feet facing forward and then have these turned around to give me support from both sides. It'll be wide enough to give me good support lengthwise, and this will give me a good support front to back. And I'm going to be tacking these on in a different way, not all in one straight line. So the feet in the front will be right here, or maybe I will tack them in a straight line. That might actually work out better. I don't know yet. I'm kind of working this as I go along. But anyway, so that's how I'm going to set up the feet, and I'm going to start tacking this together, and we'll see how it comes together. After I got the front of the lumber rack pretty much all set and put together, I started my attention on putting the back of the frame together. So this included the 2 middle support beams with the 2 rear facing feet. And I chose this design because I felt it would give me a lot more stability. Now that the frame for the lumber rack was done, I turned my attention towards making the arms that'll actually carry the lumber for me on the frame. So for this, I used the offcuts from the 2x4s that I had left over. I found the center and then used my speed square to mark a 45-degree angle from the center, and then from the edges, I marked a 10-degree bevel. The 10-degree bevel will help to slope these just slightly up so that the lumber will lean into the frame instead of away from it. This will keep it from sliding off. I use my pole saw to cut the 10-degree bevels on the ends, and then use a miter box with a miter handsaw to be able to cut the 45-degree angles in the middle. And now to start drilling the pilot holes for the arms. This was a bit tricky just because of the angle and everything. So I clamped them all together, marked out roughly the center for each, and then started drilling from the bottom the pilot holes, and then I flipped them around and then drilled from the other side, the opposite side, pilot holes for the top. After all the holes were drilled, I countersank these as well. Then to test the strength of the frame, I decided to do a pull-up on it, which it passed with flying colors. After the arms were all cut, I decided to use the leftover pieces of the 2x3s that I had to make a clamp rail. This will just add to the overall functionality of the lumber rack and just help me with spacing and organization. So I figured it was just a win-win. The longest piece of scrap 2x3 that I had wasn't quite long enough to reach all the way across the frame, so I decided to use the other scraps that I have and just put that across 5 inches from the end of the longest piece, and then clamp and screw that down together, and then clamp a smaller piece at the end. This will give me the length and thickness that I need to be able to reach all the way across the frame, and also to use it as a clamp rail. Okay, so it's the next day. The rail for the clamps is done. Glue's all set, and I didn't appreciate the irony of the clamp rail is being held together by all the clamps until just now. So clamp rail's done. The arms to actually store the pieces of lumber on the lumber rack are done. So now all we got to do is attach them to the frame and maybe put a finish on them, and then they're all set to go. I'm still debating about the finish because this isn't going to be actually out in the elements and it's not really necessary, but maybe I will put something in. I'll put at least some boiled linseed oil, but I am going to do one thing to make this look better. Clamping this was a little bit tricky, so I started in the middle. This would allow me to adjust the ends, and then once I got them into the right position, I clamped those down and then screwed them in. For the screws, I had some leftover 3-inch screws that I actually did find that had washers on them, so I just ended up using those, and it made things so much easier to actually have the right size screws. Putting on the arms was the trickiest part of this build. Because of the angle that I cut them at and just the awkward placement, I couldn't really get a clamp onto there. So I had to mark out where they were going to be on the frame, pre-drill a hole in the back of them, and then screw them in from the back, and then I could attach the screws in from the top and the bottom. And because I'm a pyromaniac, I had to bring the torch in at some point in this build. So I decided to torch the outside of this lumber rack, and it made it look so much better. The contrasting gray and the light and darks looks really great on my patio and my workspace, and just it makes me smile every time I look at it. So I think it was a good choice. And because this isn't going to be actually out in the elements, I don't really need to do a finish like polyurethane or spar urethane. But at a later point, if I want to, I still have that option. But now the only thing left to do is to get everything moved and put it in place. This is pretty simple. All I had to do was just clear a bunch of junk out of the way, move my workbench. I decided to sweep just to give me peace of mind that everything was nice and clean back there. And then I just picked it up and moved it into place. Okay, as you can see behind me, the lumber rack's done and it's already being put to good use. This thing helped out so much to help keep me organized. It's already cleared up so much space. I feel like I have so much more room now, and it just looks awesome. I'm glad that I torched it to give it a really cool burnt look. And yeah, it's done. I'm happy with it. The way that it turned out, it's solid. A couple of things that I probably would have done differently, and if you're going to try this, I would definitely suggest you make sure you pre-drill all your holes, you drill pilot holes, and you actually get screws that are long enough to where you don't have to do the excessive amount of countersinking like I did. I didn't want to have to go out and buy more screws when I already had a ton laying around. Like I had like 100 pieces of like these 2-inch wood screws, so I wanted to be able to use those up. And thankfully I was able to use up, I think, a whole box, pretty much a whole box of those on this rack. And that's cool. And you know, I made sure to use glue. I use all those screws. I use a ton of screws. And as you can see in the video, it's pretty solid. I'm able to do a full pull up on that thing. It can support my body weight. It's more than enough strong for what I need it for. So thank you guys for watching. And if you like this video, make sure you go check out these guys, these great, awesome makers here, and go check out and see what they're doing. If you need to pause this video so that you can see all the names, but these people are awesome. They make some incredible things. Go show them some love, and after you're done going and showing them some love, come back, like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you want to, and show me a little love. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and my Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been awesome. And I'm Jacob with Native Son Wood Art, here to remind you to make moves, not excuses.